Hey guys, here at Genuine 4x4, just about to fit an OCAM bull bar for a Revo Hilux, 2017 Hilux, and I'm just going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to fit it, and let's get started. First off guys is we take off the grill trim. So you got some clips here, take that off, grill comes off, actual plastic original factory bar comes off, got your clips around the side, underneath. You've got your plug for your fog lights on either side. So once we take all that off, then we'll get started on actually fitting the winch mount. And if you're fitting the winch, putting the winch on and step by step from there. Okay, as you can see, everything's off now. Next step that I'll be doing would be taking the center piece off. So that plastic reinforcement that usually holds the actual grill, just gives a bit more strength, that comes off. And as you see down the bottom, you've got this splash tray on the inner side. We're going to chop it from inside, just about there. And on the other side, the same thing. We still want to keep the top two sides. Because the reason why we cut the bottom is because that's going to interfere with the actual winch plate. So we'll get off and do that, and then we'll go to the actual chassis next. Next step is take this plastic off. So it's just on there by some clips. So a bit of pressure, that comes straight off. And look, before we go and touch this, the tie bar, now's probably a good time to get in and do your wiring for your blinkers and your parkers, and you can tap in through there for the actual headlight itself. Do your wiring. I've already pre-done it just to make things a bit quicker. So that's it there. That's ready to go onto my lighting for my bull bar. So get that done. Once you've done all that, plastics are done, wiring's done, then we'll go on and start the actual winch plate. Got 4 bolts holding these in. So on the inside of this, you've got some plastics as well, and they can just pop off. And make sure all your clips are off. And that's it there. So this is not needed as well. So go to the side. And also, so you don't forget, the brackets for the bar come off as well, the factory ones. And as you can see from here, you've got 2 Phillips head plastic screws. So what they do, they're just pretty much spring loaded, and that's it, they pop out. They pop out. You've got a 10mm nut there, bolt there, take that off. Be sure to put that bolt back because that's for the headlight. So bracket comes off, put the bolt back in to hold the headlight. It's a 10mm, and that's for the headlight. Let's go and pop this off. That's what you don't do. Make sure you hold it. But it's not needed anyway. And like I said, headlight mount, make sure that the 10mm goes back in. Very important, guys, otherwise you'll get rattles and you could damage or anything with the headlight. Tighten that back up and we'll do the other side. Yep. And that's the right way to do it. And once again, that goes back in. And that's it. Now we're ready for the winch mount and obviously a winch as well. So we'll do that next. Wrong. Alrighty, so we've got these bolts here, these small 6mm, they're for the bash plate. You've got these 4 here with a fine thread. So you've got an actual nut welded to the chassis already, and they go in there. The ones with the nuts, they're for the empty holes in the chassis, and they're for the bull bar. These ones here. So next we'll grab the fine thread, winch plate. Oh, I got my hand. Sit that in place. As you can see, that's got a nut in there. That's from factory. Fine thread. Let me see what I'm doing. There we go. That's just sitting in place now. Now we'll go and put the rest of the bolts in. Don't tighten the bolts until you get all the bolts in there. And then when we tighten, we'll make sure it's nice and straight, and we'll get to that next. Alrighty, so at the moment, all the 4 bolts are in to the chassis. Now, the best way to do this is to either measure from the outside, so how much gap you got here on the back of the plate if you want to come around. So you can measure that side there to the other side and get your center. Or if you're good with your eye, you can always do it off the actual body of the vehicle. So line up this side with that side there, vice versa, and that pretty much gets your center. Or if you're not that confident doing that, like I said, just measure off the inside. That'll get your center. The reason why I like to make the winch plate center is when you fit the bar, you don't want the wing of the bar to be hanging out on this side or too far in, vice versa on the actual completion of the bar. All right, so let's tighten her up. It's not fully tight yet, it's just getting it up to where it's got to be, and then we'll go over it and lock it in. Cradle is all tightened up. Everything's aligned. I'm happy with the alignment. It's all sitting nice and center. Next step we'll do is we'll mount the winch to the cradle. In the winch kit, pretty much all winches are the same, sort of, kind of, but you've got these little square nuts that go inside. They just pop into each cutout there. Even on this winch, some winches, the earth terminal is on a different spot. On this Hilux that we're fitting it to, it's down the bottom, so it's a good idea to put your earth, just so you're not struggling to try and get the wire in. So we'll undo that. Grab your earth wire. Just save you a lot of heartache once you've bolted the winch. It's a real tight spot to get to. Generally will go towards the back. We'll tighten her up. Just a nice, once the spring washer's compressed, nice little tug. Nice and tight. You want this to be tight so you don't get any shorts, and because you've got so much ampage going through, it could just shock and jump and not work. So make sure that's tight. Pretty much all your wiring on the winch, it's got to be nice and tight. Put the winch on. Keep the wiring at the back for now. We'll worry about that later. Locate your holes. There you go. Don't tighten up straight away, just get it hand tight. The same thing, you want to get this winch tightened and it's straight. At the moment it's on an angle. We want to pull it forward and have it nice and straight. You've got a sensor at the back and that's a clearance. If you're not happy with the sensor, it can stay there or you can drop it down, lift it up, either way. But always make sure the winch is straight. And just by doing that, arm each side, bit of pressure to whichever way you want to straighten it up to. And that looks good to me, so I'll go and tighten her up. Just a nice nip. It's not a good idea to be using any power tools. It's always good to do it by hand so you can get a nice feel of how tight you're going. So the wiring, go on top, in between, just in a nice safe direction. I like to follow whatever conduit's there, or wrap yours in conduit, if that's what you do. That's what I like to do. So what I will do is put conduit over the earth in all my cables, just so nothing rubs in the future and so you don't get any shorts or any mucking around with the wires. Alrighty, next step. Right, so this particular winch comes with this control box. Now this box is meant to mount onto the winch itself. On this vehicle, you can't fit this in between. As you can see, Once the bull bar goes on, grill, there won't be any room for this to sit. So what I'll be doing is taking these brackets off, putting one of my own brackets to sit it on the bull bar to give it, just so it can all work together. So I'll leave that up for the moment, for the time being. If I was to go ahead and mount it here, it's very straightforward. Black, yellow, red, and your colors are here. You got red, you got black, and you got yellow, and your long red goes to your battery. So it's very straightforward, and that's an earth as well. So any earth on the body of the vehicle. But at the moment, I'm gonna fit the bull bar, and then I'll put this on at the end. So just along the chassis. Yep. So just sit it there, get a bolt in there to secure it so it doesn't drop. Thank you. Thank you very much. So that bar's on now. We'll go in and put the rest of the bolts in there. Once the bolts are in, then it's time for an adjustment. But in the meantime, get the bolts in, hand tighten them, and then when it comes time to adjusting, it's a lot easier once it's hand tightened, and then you can go up and tighten it up. Okay, don't forget your fair lead, guys, before you adjust the bar and tighten. Sometimes it's too hard to get the actual rope through, so do that before you tighten her up. So that one needs a second hole. As you can see, it's nice and center, and that's the hole we'll be using. If you've got a steel winch with a different fair lead, you can use different mounts. You can use the 4 mounts. But most people are going with the rope these days. They're a lot lighter. They don't fray, and they look good. So we'll get that nice and center, and we'll tighten that up, and then we'll put our rope through. Then we'll go ahead and tighten the bar. Once that's tightened, put the rope through. Then later on we can put the hook, clevis hook, and we can work that out. Now it's time for an adjustment. So as you can see, come to the side of the vehicle. Now when you adjust your bar, your bull bar, you want to leave a gap around 2 centimeters, and you also want this corner here and the corner of the guard to meet up. So a nice meet. If it's sitting too far forward, that's not how you adjust a bar. So it's got to have that nice meet where it is there, and that's the best way to start adjusting your bars. Get that measurement there right, and then you come to the front. You've got high, low. So with this vehicle, you want to sit it nice and tight, close to the headlight, just to get a nice, even gap between. But like I said, always use that as your first marking point for your measurement. Same with this side. Same kind of thing. Look, on most vehicles, as soon as you put the bar on and you start to close it in, it usually falls into place where it should. So it's not the most difficult thing to do, especially with this vehicle being a non-bar cut. It's a straightforward application. Whereas if there was a bar cut involved, then it becomes a bit more fiddly. But like I said, with this, that's your main line-up point. Once you've got that, tighten up one of the bolts in the center, but not too tight. So we'll get it tight enough just so we can adjust the bar, but it will hold into position. That way, if you're doing it on your own or doing it with another person, they can hold and tighten it up. If you're doing it on your own, tighten one there. On the other side, tighten the middle. That way the bar still has a little bit of movement with some pressure, and you can get the perfect adjustment, and then you go ahead and tighten the rest of the bolts. Alrighty. Alrighty, so everything looks to me to be nice and in line. Double check your gaps and then tighten her up. If you're happy with the adjustment, tighten her up and she'll be good to go. Also, if you're doing it on your own and you're tightening, sometimes when you tighten, it might move out of whack. So just go over and check. Okay, this side's moved as I was tightening, so I'll just go and push it over, back into position, and you're good to go. Even a bit more lower. Go. Please do not pull that side down for just a little bit. Just a bit of pressure. Come down. Beautiful. Okay, so now we'll just check adjustment. Right, Peter. Okay, so the bull bar's adjusted, it's up where we need it. Next, go and put your overriders. So these rubber overriders just sit on the face of the bar. Just give it that nice front protection, so if you do have a little tap somewhere, this is a little protection. It is labelled left and right. As you can see, there's L on this side and R on this side, as you can see, and that'll give you an indication on which way it goes. Just pop these on. And please don't over tighten these, because it is rubber, hardened rubber, and they've got a stud going through. If you over tighten, you can actually rip the stud out of the rubber. So just a nice hand tight with a spanner will give it enough to actually lock, because it's got a spring washer, and that'll be plenty. The bar, done the fair lead, everything's where we want it. Next we'll go and put the lights, and like I said earlier, take your lighting from the headlight, so your blinkers and your parkers and stuff from up top, run your wiring down. Also the wiring loom doesn't come in the kit, so you just need to supply your own wiring. So it's just 3-core wiring to get your earth, your park light and your blinker light down to the actual light inserts. So we'll just undo these and we separate, and you just determine that'll be your driver's side. So we'll go and pop that in. Also check to see these are tight. Tighten these up so there's no rattles. So we'll go ahead and tighten that up before we put this on. Okay. Just got to make sure this piece, that piece, so those 4 pieces actually sit on the inside of the plate and don't sit that way. So it's got to sit like that. So the pressure, once you put your cover on and tighten those nuts up there, it'll put pressure and actually lock it into the bar. If you do it this way, once you start tightening, you'll have a massive gap up top and it just won't be tight. So make sure they're sitting up in that position. Slide your face on. There we go, it's locked in, and we go and put our nuts. It's always easier if you do it on your own to just put your shoulder into it to hold the face. Put your lights in and the surrounds, tighten it up. You gotta wire up your lights. Once you've done that connection, it's time for the bash plates. Tighten it up. Don't over tighten because it is plastic, these surrounds. So you just get it nice and firm, and there's no need to over tighten. There's 3 nuts there you gotta tighten up. 2 in the middle, 1 on the other side. Okay, tighten this side. Alright, same with these guys. Slide it in. And that locates itself. Okay, do the other side, and then we'll go ahead and we'll use the bash plate line as our template line to cut. So we'll pretty much go from there to that point there, cut that straight on a straight line. You can use either just some tin snips as well, some really sharp tin snips, really sharp scissors, or you could use a jigsaw. If you do decide to use a jigsaw, just be very careful you don't cut anything behind. Just double check where you're cutting. But either way, nice clean cut will give a nice finish. Okay, before we put the center bash plate on, we've got a plastic shroud here. It's a factory shroud. That's got to come off, as well as the splash tray. Once we put our bash plate here, the splash tray needs to be cut on the same angle as the splash tray, so the bash plate. So first we'll take this off, then we'll head off to the second one. that's all not needed anymore. So once the bash plate goes on, we're going to be taking these 3 mounts, and on the inner we're going to take this mount and this mount here. Okay, so let's put the bash plate on. This one just slides. So you got your rib nuts in the bash plate, and that just slides in, and you just sit it in position, and then you just start. Once again, don't tighten the nut fully, the bolt fully, sorry. Put all your bolts in, and then right at the end we'll tighten her up, get our adjustment right. So still leave a bit of play. So when we put our corner piece on, we'll get a nice gap in between the bash plates. Okay, so just before you tighten these bash plates, just make sure the gaps are the same. It just leaves a nicer look, more professional look once you're finished. And in this instance, just a finger. They're both a finger width apart. And then you can go out and tighten the rest of the bolts. It comes time, so you've done your bash plates, everything's aligned, everything's done. Now you want to do a nice clean cut. You can use any color texture, white preferably. If you've got a black one, doesn't matter, you'll still be able to see it. But as you can see, the splash plate, splash guard, the plastic one, sits over the bull bar. So we want to do just a rough line, as you can see. And then once you've done that rough line, if you're not confident just doing it that way, you can always grab a ruler and then get. So what I'll do, I'll just give it a rough line, and that'll be my cut line. But obviously when you do cut, make sure it's nice and straight. That's just more of a template, just a guidance. I'll go ahead and cut that. Like I said, you can use snips, whatever you're comfortable using. So cut it up to the line, and then cut it across. So that's ready now. Once I do the rest of the cut, that'll be ready to pop behind the bar. That'll be nice and solid. If you cut it too much, you're going to have too much play. You'll start hearing noises. If you cut it just enough, so when it goes in, it locks into the inside of the bar, you won't get no noise. There'll be enough pressure for the actual splash tray. So just be very careful with that. It can get annoying if you cut it wrong. So we're good there, and that's our line. And I'll just continue cutting that. There's a jigsaw as well, scissors, whatever you're comfortable with. I'll just show you a few different ways, and we'll get going. Be careful from behind. Obviously, you know there's nothing behind that you're going to damage, and then go for it. behind. Now that's sitting in behind now, it's locked in. It's nice and strong, there'll be no flapping around in the wind. On the inside, I like to put a little hole in the splash tray and then put just a little cable tie just to stop that from flapping as well. That one's done. Okay, so both splash trays have been chopped, nice and clean. This side doesn't need a cable tie, it's got a fixed point in the washer bottle. Other side with cable tied, and that's all done for now. So now we're going to put the grill on. So we'll drop the hoist. So just before you put the grill on, is you run your winch cabling to the battery. And with the actual, like I said earlier, with the winch control box, is you run your colours, your red, your yellow, your black, red, yellow and black, and your red goes the same way to the battery, and that small earth goes to any earth. So anywhere along where the lock is, anywhere around the radiator support is fine to put the earth. It's black, it's long enough to actually reach there, not interfere with anything. Okay, so your winch cabling, that's a negative, positive terminal, negative terminal. It's that basic to wire up a winch. You can put a key which turns the power on, turns it off for the actual winch. If it doesn't come in the kit, you can go direct. It is always better to have that with one of those keys, just so nothing shorts or no one activates the winch while you're not next to the vehicle. So once that's in place, we can grab our grill and put that on and start putting the top back together. Got the grill going back on. Just be careful. Just kind of have to maneuver it in slightly. There we go. Sitting in place, and it's pretty much a repeat of how you took it off. So put your clips, make sure they clip back in. 2 bolts there, 2 bolts there. And then we'll go and put the shroud on. And then shroud back on, clips back in, and that's pretty much a reverse of how you took it off. Once that's done, that's your finished OCAM bull bar. Don't forget your number plate. Okay guys, so that's the fitting guide to fitting the OCAM 2015 plus onwards OCAM bull bar. As you can see, it's a quality bar and the end results speak for themselves, as you can see. Hope you guys have fun and enjoy the tracks.